Hi, this is Alex Gonzalez from In Your Phase. This is going to be a 40K based episode where we'll discuss the Iron Halo major event that just happened this past weekend. In addition to that, we are going to be taking a look at the Necron Dynastic traits as we get closer and closer to the release of the first two codexes for 9th edition Warhammer 40K. We're pretty excited. I'm pretty excited as a Necron player to talk about the Necrons, despite me not nearly having enough time to do so. But do look for a lot more Space Marine content and Necron content in the next few weeks when we talk a lot about 40K. Enjoy.
Now I am not. I have graduated from. I put it away. Shitty gaming headset mic to mounted TV mic to webcam mic to actual real podcasting / streaming mic. So we'll see what it's like to be in the world of real equipment. Now I just need to get. I mean, I have I guess a real webcam. I just need to get. I don't know what else I need to get actually. Probably a real virtual background.
Welcome to it. And welcome everyone to In Your Phase. In today's episode, we are going to be talking a lot about 40K. I don't have a lot of 40K in my phase in particular right now. I have a lot of Seraphon that I've actually been painting since I had a game with Jeremy recently. He and I played a game, Lumineth versus Seraphon. We played a TTS game where things didn't really go in his favor. This time, things absolutely did not go in my favor. I had everything go on exactly as I needed to on the table in the moment. Models were physically pretty much where they needed to be, with the exception of one charge that didn't really go the way that I wanted to in terms of, I wish it was a longer charge, but it was an adequate one, and I just couldn't hold up to it. So everything got nuked pretty quickly for me. Just a bad game, bad dice game. But I'm painting up my albino Carnosaur, and you guys have seen more close-up pics earlier, but it's almost done. In the Pacific Northwest Corsair chat, our good friend and one of the LVO 2020 40K painting winners, Carl Payne, he suggested, because I was thinking like, okay, there's going to be these red cords on the Carnosaur. There's going to be a guy on top, and in him and his throne, none of it's white, just the model. Is he still a little too albino-y? And, because I didn't want to just prime white and like give it a wash and be like, it's albino. So I've actually done a lot of intricate work to it to make it albino. And I was taking a lot of inspiration from Claude, the albino alligator from the Academy of Sciences. He's been, and that's in San Francisco, for those who don't know. As a little kid, I remember him being there. He's still there. He's an old boy or girl. I really don't know. Who knows? It's all fluid anyways. But he's, I took a lot of inspiration from that for the Carnosaur, but it's almost done. And I really felt like there needed to be a little bit more panache, but you can't have it albino and then have it have like spots and stripes and shit. So, I mean, you can, but it's a lot more intricate work. So Carl, right before recording, maybe an hour before, was just like, hey, why don't you get like war paint, but maybe just have like handprints on there. And so now my entire world was flipped upside down. Where I'm like, oh shit, I need to like make a stencil of like a 4-fingered like claw hand and have like a couple of different, little, hand, like hand blown or hand painted like prints of like the writer, or like maybe he's had multiple writers and the writers keep on dying and he keeps on living on. And maybe there's like a print for the hand of every writer that he's ever had. Like, I think that's fucking cool. So now I'm like, this is a fucking fantastic idea. That's all that's in my phase. I have an upcoming stream game with probably more Total War with Jeremy later in the week. I'm probably going to be doing one with Dayton pretty soon. We started one up. We didn't really stream it. Dayton from Party at the All Points. It didn't really go that far. And we both played Lizardmen for Total War. We're probably going to do that again, maybe with a little bit of a funnier or funkier combo. And, do expect that on our Twitch. We're going to do a stream game. I don't know if we're going to fully, or what we're really going to do with that because of the upcoming Necron Space Marine Codex in just a couple of weeks. Jeremy and I on our regular Sunday stream, but that's what's going on as well. But that's just in my phase in particular. There's many more phases to go to. John, what is in your phase?
Hey, Alex, how you doing this week? So, I tell you what, I like the idea that you said Carl Payne was the one that gave you the idea for the handprints on the riders. That
Yeah.
is an amazing idea. Yeah, I really like that. I could see taking like wax. I'm sure everybody has like wax molding material around for their hobby. Take like a little wax mold, sculpt some hands, and then you could use some latex. If you even have that latex masking material handy, you could probably put it in there and make little stamps that you could just do, and they wouldn't have to last long, and probably make a different one on every couple riders. Anyways, just minor thoughts I had on that, so it's kind of cool. I myself, as far as my phase though, not too much either. This last week I did the hobby stream. We finished up actually talking about the Primaris Outrider. So those are now finished. If you guys caught it, the stream this week with me. However, next week I'm looking forward to actually starting a Necron lighted LED project. So I've actually this week have been spending a lot of time going through the characters that I have in the Indomitus box set, and in particular looking at sprues and kind of deciding like which models have the opportunity for me to run some wires and which models can I apply some interesting effects. I also put in a large order of LEDs, a variety of LEDs for some ideas that I have on what to do. So that's what I've been working on. Other than that, I did get in a game of 40K once again with my buddy Sean, down here in San Martin at the old barn of 40K, the man cave, as it were. I've decided to mix things up. Sean's been kicking my ass for a few weeks. He's been playing Death Guard, Space Wolves, stuff that's been really chewing on my Ultramarines. And so I was working on my list. And as I was working on my list for the Ultramarines, I said to myself, man, I really am getting the rhythm of this codex. Like, this is a really good list. I said, what the fuck am I doing? What the hell am I? This is about to be. I literally deleted the list, started a Tau list, busted out Tau, haven't played Tau in a while, took Tau down, and of course, what does he do? He mixes it up and pulls out his Harlequins. Harlequins all on bikes, everything is -1 to hit, everything has a 4-up invulnerable save. Anyways, he was the yin to my yang, or the yang to my yin, however you want to. I did hold out for 4 turns, but in the end, it was a stunning defeat. So did have a lot of fun playing my Tau. Hadn't broke them out in a while, so that was cool. And of course, Sean's Harlequins are absolutely gorgeous. Oh, I actually meant to have a picture ready for the background. Sorry, guys, it's not going to happen.
Oh, no.
But he does. My buddy Sean always has amazingly painted armies. Pretty good stuff. And with that, Garrett, what has been in your phase this week, my friend?
So I just want to say, I think the yin-yang comparison is probably not the best, because that's usually two things that like coexist and balance with each other. That's probably more of the water to your fire, like straight counter to the rock to your scissors, like however you want to put it. Like literally just a direct counter, not a coexisting balance to your army. My phase has not been super exciting. I guess to some it will be. The big thing is this Sunday will be my first session of my wife's new campaign that we've been working on for D&D with all the world building. So the culmination of all of my wife's very hard work will start off on this upcoming Sunday. So I'm very excited for that. I have started a half-elf bard. And it turns out our party is going to be very social. We have like 3 half-elves and a gnome, and two of them, we have a rogue, a ranger, and a bard. It's like, yeah, we're just going to be an incredibly social party. Combat is not going to be a focus, but I'm really excited for it. My wife generally doesn't like combat encounters, so this will probably work out to her strengths anyways. And then I have another tabletop simulator tournament coming up this weekend. It'll just be a 3-day event, not a 5-day. So just a Friday, Saturday, Sunday standard. It'll be my 7th RTT. Actually, I think I ran one of the RTTs as the GT. So it'll be my 6th RTT, my 8th event that I'll be running since March. We have probably about 11 to 15 people signed up as of right now. I'll probably be doing another rounds of posting and advertising that. Alex, lists are due on Thursday.
No.
I like to get
Don told
pairings
me
out.
not to interrupt you, but I know.
Well, I like to get pairings out on Thursday, hopefully by Thursday evening, so that people can start their Fridays. I like to get them out for Thursday afternoon if I can, Eastern time. The only other thing I've been working on is I've been working with Jeremy a ton to try to get some interesting stats going on for 40K secondaries and 40K points in general, as he had his stats show, what was that, 2 weeks ago now, where we went over the first round of points that are going on to 40K, like how many points people are scoring. And now that BCP has been getting scorecard information where we're actually able to get secondaries that people are using, we can get that data and try to get some information about that. So that's another thing I've been working on with Jeremy this last week. So that's really all been my phase. Jeremy, how are things been going with you other than wonderful stat tools that you've been building?
Just the same old, beating Alex in my dungeon, somewhat painting some Illumineth, even though I really want to play them, but they're like, every fiber of my being is like, but why? I want to play them, but why is the question
why is because you're not going to a tournament. You can play a bad army.
That's right. I'm just gonna keep playing a bad army and go to an actual major tournament. So getting off that wagon right now before I go into a tirade about it. There's mostly doing it was nice looking at all the secondary data from BCP and coming up with some nice, cool ways to tell the story of how 9th edition is proceeding from a competitive view. I would love to do the same exercise for Age of Sigmar, and hopefully at some point in the future we will do the same thing. We have something probably in the works that we'll put together. It's all preliminary at this point, but let's look forward to that. I think at the end of the day, what I like to tell this, when I look at data is everything going well and normal? And then let's talk about the outlier versus talking about the outlier first and then just making information about the normalcy. So let's take it more, I guess it's the finance person in me just wants to talk about let's talk about the things that actually are normal and are like most of the population of our data versus talking about the very small externalities the very small outliers that probably don't repeat themselves.
Extremes,
that's right. So yeah. I'm looking forward to pushing that. So that's basically the end of my phase. I did do some house projects. I built a patio roof this weekend, so that was cool. I'm looking forward to playing a game of Warhammer on my patio, I guess, now that it's covered.
Hell yeah,
and
let's do it.
And we're going to have rainy season, and we're going to freeze our balls off while playing it.
The question is, can you get all of your streaming equipment plugged in out on the patio?
No, I'll just have to ask my wife to just hold the cameras. And the boom mic, I guess. No.
So we already have the oubliette down below. What are we going to call the patio of iniquity?
Patio of iniquity. I guess the French word for the ramparts and the wall where they have slits. They're called the murderers. I guess the
murder hole. Yeah, the murder hole.
The murder hole. In French, I think it just literally translates to the murderers. That's what they call the murderers. So we'll just call it that. The patio of murdering.
What is the French word for that?
So, I think maybe the bastion, because the bastion is out on the wall. So it's on the outer wall of the house. So you've got the oubliette down below and the bastion out front.
Yes.
I'm curious what the French word that translates to the murderers is.
It's my god, I'm having a meurtrière. I think that's what they're called, a meurtrière. Yeah, it's just basically. By the way, if you didn't know, the verb murder in French, I think, is a feminine verb. So it's just giving the whole context of everything in French is a gender, basically. Almost nothing doesn't have a gender. It's very weird.
Wait. The verbs have gender?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can kind of give them. Yeah, they have gender.
Interesting. Because I speak a little German, so I'm very familiar with the concept of gender when it applies to nouns and certainly pronouns and stuff like that. But verbs?
Well, a murder is masculine, but I think that term is feminine. The term the wall is feminine, basically. A murder is masculine, though. It doesn't follow any reason. or
No, of course
logic.
not. No. Of course not.
It just is. It gives
It'd be
my
too
wife
con-
nothing.
It would be too
My wife.
convenient.
It gives my wife too much of a headache. She's just like, why? Because in Chinese, there's like literally no gender associated to anything, like when I talk. So it's just like going from that culture to English to then, going from that to English to French, where it's just like,
Yeah, but
Why?
there when you have the social cues. So when it's one person's social level relative to another also starts controlling the how the speech.
Oh, no, it's just
the
literally,
use of
like-
pronouns and stuff. So
literally
yeah,
the
it's every language has. I'm just saying has its own sort of
Yeah,
quirks.
yeah.
And the fact is that English, the language we're using and speaking right now, is the most mixed up, homogenized language, short of forms of pidgin that probably has ever existed that I know of.
Yeah,
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's a
especially
beautiful
American.
language.
Especially American English.
It's an amalgamation. We'll call it that. Not an abomination, just an amalgamation.
Absorbs words freely and openly. It's a thing.
All right. Now for. Sorry, John.
Oh, and I was gonna say, and that's one of the things that's so important about what we're doing here with In Your Phase Media too. Is we're trying to put the words out. We're trying to do lots of things. We have lots of projects going on. All of that kind of stuff.
This is when
I know my.
So I was gonna say this is where every time you go in this, I just want like that clip from Starship Trooper, like, do you want to know more? Like that pops
Would
up.
you like to know more?
Would you like to know more?
Desire to know more intensifies.
No, I was gonna say our fearless leader over here. We played on Sunday. He did not have a good time, and that's okay. It just makes him realize that there's still room for improvement, which is the important thing about playing this game is room for growth. Because once it gets stale, that's when people stop playing and make terrible mistakes, including myself. So I'm looking forward to what his next army, for Seraphon's going to be, and I look forward to our 40K stream. I don't know if we're actually going to play on 40K this Sunday, or if we're going to be playing
AOS, and then we go back to 40K because it'll be the release of the Necron.
Well,
game.
it's the TTS event this weekend, so I was thinking maybe we should stream our TTS games.
We could, or we could
that
easily
too.
get our TTS games in and then do one.
Yes. See, guys, we're very organized. We've already settled on our.
Super organized. We've already done that
Anyway.
well in advance.
You want to talk a little bit more about some of the stuff?
Yeah, we do have that TTS game, and I see in our chat over here that Jeremy, you did say you reminded Garrett to tell me that listener for the 11th time. Let me tell you what. In our game, I brought Camo Skinks, 2 units of 10, and I've loved them. They've been great. And then I brought the Pterodons, and I was really annoyed and kind of upset at the performance of the 20 Camo Skinks, 9 Pterodons, Pterodon Chief, and the Firelance Battalion, because I realized pretty quickly that the Pterodons are a little bit of a one-trick pony, but they are very good for board control, and they're incredibly fast. So I had this difficulty of going well, shit, I can't have 30 models in my fucking army that have 6 up armor saves. So as much as I like the Camo Skinks, or as much as I like the Pterodons, I can't have them together in the same list. I have to have more variation, things that can actually survive. So now I've been hitting up our group of people in these chats, and it's really funny because I'm just trying to get a TTS game in, get practice games. Our good friend and teammate Ben Viscara, I'm going to his house tomorrow. I'm gonna play some fucking AOS. Jeremy, if you want to come by, I'm sure it'll be fun. But I'm going to go tomorrow afternoon, get some gaming to get some test stuff in. I'm going to try Salamanders as much as it is an obvious meta choice, but we got more stuff. We got more stuff to test out. But, that's just one thing. And, with the testing, we've got the, this is not only for the TTS game, but it is, of course, for our live stream games. We want to show you guys the best content that we can possible. That's just one piece of a bigger picture, though. Our Sunday live streams, whether they be TTS, whether they be 40K, AOS, etc., we know them. And we kind of, between Jeremy and I alone, both Garrett and John, you guys certainly do promote as well. We kind of cram it down all of our acquaintances and friends' throats when we're actually doing them as well. But there are a lot more events. And if you follow In Your Phase, especially if you follow In Your Phase on Facebook, John has pretty consistently, about a day or maybe a day or two after release of these episodes, post a lot of consistent content. John, I know that you've been doing these Firehead, would you call them interviews? Would you call them shows? How do you describe them?
Yeah, it's something that's still kind of developing. Definitely open to feedback. I know a lot of people out there are giving me a lot of positive feedback, and I'm trying to develop it into more of an interview show, talking to 40K celebrities, 40K champions, and of course, eating some hot peppers while we're doing it. And much like the famous Hot One show that's out there, climbing that tree of eating hotter and hotter peppers and seeing what we can get people to talk about. And so right now, I've actually lined up a series of interviews for October. I'll be announcing that on our Facebook page as soon as I have everybody locked in. But I do have about 5 interviews coming up over the next 5 or 6 weeks. So look for those. And of course, with the hobby stream, as I mentioned earlier, every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, doing that hobby stream. And of course, Jeremy, you've been doing some stat shows and stuff like that. What else have you been working on?
Mostly conceptualizing how we're going to do an AOS stat show. And, no, seriously, like it's actually kind of challenging because there's surprisingly a lot of people who are doing a lot of AOS stats. We got JP, we got I'm sorry, I'm gonna forget his name, but he's on the Honest Wargamer franchise as well. He does a lot of AOS stat. Rufio? No, is that no?
No, Rufio is the LL. Fuck. His name is Damien.
Anyway.
His name is
Yeah,
Damien.
Damien. His
How
name is Damien.
dare you, Garrett?
I know.
And you call yourself a fan.
I only know his name is Damien because I have to actually
Yeah,
he just the stats.
Damien just hasn't made it into Garrett's fanfics yet, for the honest.
LLV.
Wargamer.
LLV.
Yeah, LLV. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And all their data gathering is, it's good, but it's limited by the fact that they are doing this all manually. So I'm looking to do a little bit of a hybrid approach, and I'm thinking of ways to get to do that. But effectively, same format for 40K, but taken to the level for Age of Sigmar. It will be nice because I think one of the unanswered question of our current meta for Age of Sigmar is how's the new GHB missions working out, because we really haven't had that much tournaments, and it's COVID was in the prime time, and hopefully we'll answer that. Also, I'm going to be playing Gits for Garrett's event. So they're working on the list, and I'm really looking forward to losing 3 times because it's Gits. But
Hold
it's
on,
gonna be
hold on.
glorious.
No, hold on. There was nothing in the rules that said I couldn't interrupt Jeremy. You went to a fucking GT. E-Shift 2019. He brought Gits. He said, you guys, I'm going to go 1-4. And then he plays me at the final table, and he's like, we're both 4-4. Isn't that funny? And he fucking beats me. I swear to God, fuck that. Don't trust him when he says he's gonna go 0-3 with Gits. Okay, you guys. This is really fun.
Yes, yeah, Le Bogeyman.
Yeah.
We will be reminded. Yeah.
But,
Okay, fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You know what, Garrett, get your jab in, and then I'll be talking.
I just want to say, to get back on the topic, I am really excited for the stats show. I will be on there with Jeremy. I know that there are a lot of stats shows out there, but Jeremy does, I think, a really great job with using data visualization tools so that people can, you can see the data and get a good look at it from not just a bunch of numbers thrown in your face perspective.
Hey, let's call it like it is. There's a lot of stat shows out there, but there are no stat shows with more nerdier or stattier guys than Garrett and Jeremy on them.
Fuck. I think all the stat shows have a lot of nerdy guys. Let's be real, we're all Warhammer guys, and all the stat shows have some.
Yeah, but they build themselves.
But are they
not to-
stat nerds? Are they stat nerds?
Actually, yes, they are. Like LOV guy, LOV has gotten a professor of statistics to help him with his stats that he's been using.
Does he look like a stats nerd?
I have no idea, actually.
Jesus Christ.
I was taught statistics by a professor of statistics. Does that count?
Sure. I hope so. I hope it counts. So first, the retort. Don't worry, Alex. I'll lose every one of my game except the game I play against you. Secondly, Secondly, we can just ask Logan to be on the show, which is Garrett's brother. He's got a PhD, and then I'm a data scientist. Garrett is like a back-end engineer, effectively. So that's basically as statistically nerdy as you can make it. Because I don't know about you, but like the only person in my team, for professional speaking, that actually has close enough to a PhD in statistics is the coolest looking person on the team. So like I don't know about you, but stat nerds don't look that very nerdy is the problem. Anyway, moving on and transitioning. We got a hobby stream to look forward to tomorrow, boys. What are we gonna see, John?
Oh, like I said, well, of course, as this show comes out, we just finished that Primaris Outrider. So now that took me a total of 5 episodes, 6 if you count the Prelude episode, which was where I cleaned the sprues and removed the mold lines. Very important for you, Jeremy and Garrett, to maybe rewatch that one.
You had 5 episodes.
But for everyone else, there are 5 episodes. So
I need to practice.
5 hours to put together the bike. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be going into the Necrons, and I'm pretty much going to keep that up. So every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, going to pop on the timer because, otherwise I'll talk forever. 60 minutes of hobby with John. We're out there on Twitch, Facebook, and YouTube at the same time, trying to interact with the audience. So pop in, say hi. Should be in the evening. It's a good time for everybody. So come on in. And of course, the main thing, you guys, is don't forget, we have this podcast. I mean, if you're listening to us in this podcast, I guess you're already listening to the podcast. But
joke's on you guys.
The joke's on you. But tell your friends. This podcast is something unique right now, where we're alternating. 1 week we cover Age of Sigmar, 1 week we cover 40K, and we go back and forth between the 2 systems. So if you only want to listen to one, tune in every other week. If you want to hear something about both, tune in every week. It's real.
I mean, let's be real. We talk 40K and Age of Sigmar both weeks because, like, one of us will go on about some AO. Like, we've talked about Alex's.
I literally went in on my hobby stuff and my game.
Like Alex's Seraphon. This entire. So you just listen the whole time. You'll get both
all the time.
There's a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. Yeah. And that's the best thing we can look for here, I will say real quick before we move on, Garrett, speaking of which, with your tournament, you have become a
lists are due on Thursday, Alex.
Anyways, I was gonna say, do you have a packet?
I have a description. Why do I need a packet?
Description?
There's an event description that is highly detailed of the exact process of how this event works, down to how the pairing metrics are used. What more do you need?
40K AOS, it doesn't matter.
Packet?
If you guys,
Packet.
oh yeah.
I would call that a packet.
Do you need a printed PDF Google Drive document on how to run an event? Just read the event description. You guys know how to play it.
Okay. Is there a packet's worth of information in the event description, like missions?
Okay, what?
Rules?
Yeah, sure. I would say so.
Sure or yes? Those are 2 different answers.
He would also like your affidavit explaining your interpretation of how the rules work and how the missions are scored. He expects that in the mail.
Are they binary or non?
But it's not like a packet like mine where I actually make up new rules to throw at the tournament because I don't like how some shit works.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
That's a packet.
There are no house rules. No, there are no house rules. Yeah,
the house rules are no. There's a house rule. If you have to come to me for a rules question, you're out of the tournament.
Exactly.
Anyway,
no, it's binary. It's binary. Of course, it's binary. I don't want to have to deal with math.
Well, let's talk about something that's not binary, which is a regular, run-of-the-mill, pretty big, pretty successful, regularly occurring. Again, can I say successful because it's not binary? Tournament that happened just this past weekend for Warhammer 40,000. It was the Iron Halo GT. It was definitely a major event. I swear to God, I'm shocked. There's 109 people who went to this tournament. If we count probable ringer, likely 110 people. I hope to fucking God everyone was socially distant, and I pray to whatever you believe in as the listener that there was something protecting everyone, because I still can't imagine going to events, and I can't even have events in my state. So it's a wild ride, everyone. But Iron Halo was a Best Coast Pairing sponsored event. There was a lot of things here. It was the 6th annual one. The placings for the top were a okay spread, but I feel like we're due for a Space Marine Codex revision, because things like double shot aggressors and shit like that we just know that they're not going to exist anymore. So, you know, number 1, we got John Lennon. Congratulations with your white scars. We got second place. We got a Brad Sherwin with his Black Templar, again, Space Marines. We then have Ryan Snyder with his Adeptus Custodes. So we had like 12 models on the table, and he got 3rd place at this major. Hell yeah.
36.
Oh, he got 36. My bad.
36.
Oh, did you see that meme? Wait. Are you referencing that meme? Okay.
Yeah, I'm referencing that
meme. Cool. It was like the Adeptus Custodes player when he shows up at an Apocalypse game. He's like, I have 36 models. And then, I mean, like, if we're going to talk top 5, we also got Sean Dilley with his chaos, just chaos as just generic chaos. And then we have Matthew Rund with his Harlequin. So Harlequin's in there in the top 5. Everyone can be really happy with that. The rest are literally Custodes and Space Marines, with the exception of John Champ in 10th place with his Cult Mechanicus. So almost all Imperium, no Xeno almost, and few things in between like chaos. How are we thinking? How are we feeling about this tournament?
Before we go dive deep in the tournament, I just want to give out a huge shout out to Jason Horn, who ran the tournament. Great guy. He runs the Lord Marshal's Conference, which is a regional kind of tournament circuit that is a sub-ITC circuit. I believe the Iron Halo is the culminate, like it's their LVO of the Lord Marshal's Conference. So he's been he's just he runs a good shift. He was one of the judges at LVO 40K, and he knows what he's doing. And I know that there is a lot of things to talk about the Iron Halo GT, but at the end of the day, I just want to say that Jason Horn and the Iron Halo guys do run a good show from what I've heard, and interacting with Jason in general, I know that he can run a good job. So just want to put that out there. Big shout out to Jason Horn. Great guy. Great TO.
He is great. Yeah, he has a good reputation. I myself have not hung out with him or anything, so I don't know him personally. But everything I've heard about him, and certainly as somebody who watches various big events like this, I find it very interesting. Now, of course, one of the things that I would say is that the mark of a TO is in fact the packet and the organization. And one of the things we say about the Iron Halo GT is he has all the bases covered, right? He has the website with rules, format for the tournament. Now, the nice thing about 40K is there's standardization through ITC, such things as code of conduct and how different kinds of transgressions are handled, and other things, even as far as hobby requirements, all handled through ITC requirements. So pretty easy to put together a packet. But one of the things that I thought was impressive on the website is he had a actual page of resolved rules and questions. And so he had the place where you could submit a question, and then he actually built kind of like a scrollable database with the date and the question, and then whether what the answer was to that. And I'm not going to go through the details of it, because there's actually like maybe 50 or more entries of different questions that people had. But as far as like exceptional TOing, at least from somebody from the outside looking in, what I see is somebody who has put in an exceptional effort to put together what I would say is a first class, class A type event. And so that is certainly what I see from the outside looking at the effort that TO and his team put in. But unfortunately, that's not everything that's to be said about what happened this weekend, right, guys?
Should we talk about this right now?
Jeremy, do you quickly want to go over the fact that literally your token Harlequin plus a shit ton of Imperium topped, or is there even anything worth talking about there?
Well, the Harlequin, I want to talk a little bit about the chaos list, but the Harlequin army is actually, too. I mean, it's just the way I would say it is just a different taste of Harlequins. He went for like actually fairly low bodies. I think it was effectively 20 Harlequin troops and 15 bikes. I mean, it seems like a lot, but in my opinion, it's a little too little for this edition. I would like at least like probably 2 more troop units. Sorry, no, I think he had 30 Harlequins. I think he has a block of 10 or something.
Are the bikes OBSEC?
No, they're not. That's
Okay,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and his army is
Oh my god! hold on.
entirely.
If the bikes were OBSEC, holy fucking shit, they would be amazing.
I was
There's
just
so
thinking
many
that.
more
for
Harlequin
OBSEC.
players.
I mean, there's already a ton coming out of the woodwork. Sorry, John, you had an input?
No, I was just commenting as I said, if bikes could be OBSEC, I would be in heaven.
Full, you would be full Harlequin mode.
Any OBSEC bike would pull me in.
Oh, there you go.
the
Oh yeah, of
Custodes-
course.
Custodes bikes are OBSEC.
Yeah, Custodes bikes are OBSEC.
Wait, John,
don't worry.
do you have a Custodes army?
Don't worry, you
I
can play a
actually had a
Necrons.
full Custodes army, and I traded it to Anthony Diamore in exchange for him painting all my unpainted terrain. Building and painting all my unpainted terrain.
How'd that work out for you?
I got a bunch of painted terrain. And no Custodes.
I was gonna say you can play an all-biker army that's not Imperium, that's OBSEC. You can play Necrons coming out soon.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay, well, I just want to point out that the Harlequin list was like heavy geared against against vehicles. Like he had like soaring spikes, which basically allows him to advance his 16-inch automatic 6-inch Star Weavers, which Star Weavers, which are transporting the troops of all 5 fusion pistols. So and that one sub elite just lets them shoot after they advance and no penalty with their pistols. So he could basically move up 22, shoot 6 inches away with like 5 melted guns effectively. So it's got some range, and then he's got bikes with nothing but haywire cannons and seraphic glyphs. So like if he saw a vehicle on the table, it was going to die. Like there was nothing to save that vehicle from surviving. But other than that, like I mean, the army is very, like in my opinion, it's just, I don't know, like he did very well with it. I just think like maybe some tweaks around the points, maybe driving a bike unit, probably more units would have allowed him to score more in secondaries. This is the thing about like just looking at this like without the scorecard system is and we could if I guess we have the data, but right now we don't have it on hand. I'm just wondering like how he's doing on the secondaries, because I'm feeling that the Harlequin list is a hard time scoring a lot of secondary missions. Because it doesn't have a lot of outside of engage of all fronts. I think all the other ones are fairly hard for them. But I want to talk mostly about the chaos list briefly. It's nice to see a resurgence of like basically Plague Marines. Like it's not the first time I've seen a Plague Marine army get to the top 5 and top 10 since 9th edition. But you know, the thing about this edition, it's all about sticky bodies on objectives, scoring points, and scoring secondaries. And Plague Marines
Nurgle does that.
does that very well. So it's nice to see a resurgence of that, because they were part of the release of 8th edition, right? It was like Ultramarines versus Plague Marines, and all the Nurgle stuff got like a lot of love right at 8th edition release. But then like it just disappeared after Mortarion came out. Like over the few codexes added later, everything got worse for them. Effectively, they weren't quite as performing. So it's nice to see them coming back, and it's not just Mortarion with Magnus and like 3 of the artillery. I forgot the tanks they're called. The oh my god,
Plague Burst Crawlers.
The Plague Burst Crawl. Thank you. So it's nice to see something a little different. It's more infantry based army, which is phenomenal. And kudos to him for getting 4th. Unfortunately, he lost his last round. I'm guessing, did he play the guy who won, John Lennon? Did he play against White Scar player? Let's look at it, because I feel like he must be the guy that lost since he's the only one in the top 5 that lost the last round. He must have played for top spot.
Must have, yeah.
He must have effectively. Is there a way for me to find out?
Yeah, if you hit the results link that I put in the notes there, you'll see that you can scroll back through the pairings by round.
Yeah. All right. Dan Salmons. No, that's Shandilly. Shandilly played Ryan Snyder, so he fought for third place basically.
And I want to talk about that one. I want to talk about Ryan's list, but we can wait.
Okay, you know what, Alex? Go for it. I mean, there's nothing else we can cover about this.
That's fair. You know, I've played against your custodes. I've played against in 8th edition. I've played a lot against our good friend Ben Schmoller's custodes. I haven't played a lot of 40k recently because of just me mainly being a Necron player and being very disinterested with 8th edition Necrons for many very good reasons. But I did play a few Chaos Knight armies, and I also played with Necrons here and there. So I'm relatively familiar with having to fight against custodes, specifically both you and Ben's custodes, Jeremy. And I'm looking at this list because I feel like both of you have very similar styles, or we'll say you guys have parallel styles of having how to play custodes, and they're not bad. I would say that they are like higher tier how you would play custodes in a competitive setting. And I've watched it, and like our live stream game where I played your Harlequins versus your custodes, you know, it was very difficult because you had an entire army of OBSEC and you were almost all infantry with the exception of 4 bikes, I think 4 bikes, maybe 6 bikes, and then one dreadnought, the big custodes dreadnought, the really big one, and then yeah, the bikes. That was it. Everything else was infantry, which is fantastic for scoring the secondaries. I'm looking at this guy's list, and for the most part, you know, I'm looking down Ryan's list, and I'm seeing the, you know, oh, a shield captain makes sense. Oh, you know, an Alaris Terminator, a captain in Terminator armor. Okay, we got some Praetors, we got Custodian Guard. We got a Calidus, that makes sense. We got another Calidus. Okay, we have an Ares gunship. Why do we have an Ares gunship? Because like I know what the vehicle is. It's the giant block, and it's got a huge footprint and a small little itty bitty base. But I feel like for 430 points, you could at least have 5 infantry models, probably more, likely more.
I mean,
right? Am I wrong?
In general, especially in 9th edition, I'm more of a more boys, less toys, but
that's not
and I think that in 8th edition, it's all about more boys, less toys.
Right.
So I'm like looking at that, and I'm like, holy shit, he got 3rd place with a goddamn Ares. Like,
yeah, but is that the transport one?
It's a transport and a gun.
It's a transport.
It's like a custode Storm Raven.
It's the gunship. It's the gunship. It has no transport capacity. There's 2 of them.
It doesn't have any transport.
There's the Orion and the Ares. The Orion is the transport. The Ares is just a gunship. I mean, this list is like a lot of guns. Like it's a lot of guns and non-infantry platforms, right? Because it's got 2 Calidus grav attack tanks, and then an Ares gunship. So it's just, and the Ares gunship is like, it's a super heavy that flies. Like think of it this way. It's a super heavy that flies. It pumps out more shots than the most Imperial Knights, and it flies. So it's hard to hide from that. It's a very, very deadly shooting platform, backed by some of the best shooting platforms in the game. And then what he has for, I mean, it's just a lot of. It's just he's just overloaded on killing power, which is kind of shocking for me because like between the Harlequin list, that list, and John Lennon's list, the White Scarf top player, every one of those lists feels like an 8th edition list with just lots of guns. And like, did they just play an 8th edition tournament of 9th edition missions and no one showed up to the 9th edition like, oh yeah, we don't have to kill things, we could just score points. But like that feels very much like, you know what? Screw that. We're just gonna kill everything and hope we win. Because it's literally how like I said, it really comes down to like what secondaries they pick and how they perform in the secondaries. Because I can see them winning on primaries pretty often, right? Because they can just shoot things off the primaries. But
so through like you're thinking denial, more of a denial army. I kill you off the objective.
Yeah, because primaries are scored during your next command phase. So you have to effectively survive the return.
There's an interesting perspective for that because I wanted to talk about this. If you look at the actual points scored, interestingly enough, the guy who got 1st place scored less points than both the 2nd and 3rd place person overall in the tournament. He had tighter games with less points scored but got the wins. So like he got 512 battle points out of 600 total available over 6 rounds, while Ben Sherwin got 530 battle points out of 600. So he had higher point values So maybe he has a list that's better geared towards actually scoring, but he just got an unfortunate loss versus who was it? It was round two.
Yeah.
Scott Thompson, who was bringing another Astartes list, Salamanders. So he lost against Salamanders, and that was his one loss. But he scored a ton of points with 100 in round 4 and 80 and 97 in round 1 and 99 in round 6, and his loss was 69 points. He's got a ton of high scoring games in there, which, like, unfortunately we do not have the scorecard data. It was not they did not use the new BCP scorecard feature for this event because it was a large event. They did not want to beta test the new feature for their 109-man event, which I totally understand. So I wish we could have seen it for this event in particular, because you have like the second and third place people getting very high scores, but have a loss under their belt. While the guy who won has what I would expect from 9th edition. He has a single 95, a single 94, and then everything else in the 80s with a 77. Like, mid to high 80s is kind of where I expect most games to end based off my analysis of the scoring metrics.
Yeah, well, the guy who won actually has the third highest battle points.
That's my point I'm trying to make, is like the guy who won actually doesn't have the most points, but he squeaked out wins, and he has points that I would normally attribute to actual games of 40K 9th edition being played. You shouldn't be getting 100. You should be getting about high 80s to maybe a low 90s. He has 194 and 195. Like, those are probably his blowout games where he had the upper hand the whole time. And the rest of them, like, his lowest was a 77, and his average is looking at his median score is an 81 to 85 because he has 6 games. So, like, he has what I would expect the thing to be, but he got all wins, which is what's important in a tournament. While the second and third place players, they both got, like, Ryan Snyder, he had 2 100s and a 97. Ben Sherwin had a 97, a 100, and a 99. Those are absurdly high scores that you shouldn't be seeing, but they had a loss under their belt.
Yeah, well, and you also consider that a lot of armies don't even allow you to maximize 3 secondaries against them. Like, most of the lists I'm running, you cannot maximize 3 secondaries against them.
So I wish we had the scorecard data for this event. We unfortunately do not, but I wish we did, because this would be an interesting event to look at. But on Thursday, we'll be able to look at, I think we have about 12 events worth of data now that we can look at to see how people are actually scoring on data. So that I'll be interested to see how that plays out versus an event like this.
Well, I was talking a little preview of this week's episode. The percentage of 100-point wins so far we've noticed is about, from the data, is about 5%. We got a player with 2 100-point wins, which is the Custodes player, and then a 97-point win, and then we have one player with a 100-point win. Like, you expect, like, most of these top players at least maybe get close to 100 points, and maybe have 100 points. But
the other guy has a
2 is like fucking insane.
Well, the other guy has a 100, a 99, and a 97, and the other guy has 2 100s and a 97. So they essentially have 3. Yeah, they essentially have the same scores. Like, they're only 6 points off from each other.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Problem. 4 Sigma results, 2 in a row. They got it.
That's what. And by the way, that Black Templar list is a very much an 8th edition list as well.
Yeah,
it's loaded up. It's a grab, drop pod of a bunch of Eradicators and a bunch of Blade Guard veterans. It's very much like. So I'm still thinking like that event was basically people still used to 8th edition, not at all ready to play 9th edition.
They're clinging to their pearls, waiting for the codex.
One of the big things I've been hearing from Jeremy's hero, Mike Brandt, is that people need to look at how they deploy terrain. So traditionally, I think this is actually a fault of Mike Brandt himself, because the Nova kind of created this format of how terrain should be, where you have 2 big L's in the middle of the board, and then you have 2 ruins that have line of sight blockers in themselves. You got 2 forests and 2 hills. So he kind of created this big idea that you have centralized line of sight blocking. And now I'm hearing Mike Brandt saying you need to remove away from the centralized line of sight blocking, and you instead need to create situations where you have deployment zone level line of sight blocking. So you need to make sure each deployment zone, every single possible deployment zone, has the ability where the person going second can fully hide their entire army behind the line of sight blocking terrain. Like that is the goal from a person working that a person from GW has said that is the goal every tournament should go to, is every deployment zone, the terrain should make it so the person going second can hide their entire army. So maybe people that as Jeremy says, these 8th edition armies are doing well, could be that people are still using 8th edition terrain. And we need to move towards what should be seen as a 9th edition terrain packet where an Alpha Strike won't eliminate an entire game.
And I can really see that. I mean, to relate, when I played my Tau against the Harlequins this weekend, we had actually 2 very large line of sight blockers in the middle, and we're playing a checkerboard mission. And I went first, but I literally could not see any aspect of his army across the middle of the table. And then he had enough speed to basically jump over that barrier and gun down my army on the second turn. So the advantage there actually came to second turn player.
I mean, that's outside of a perfectly good tournament that lasted 6 rounds, which is a lot of rounds, by the way, guys. Good job in playing that for 2 days. And a very surprising podium finish between Imperium, and then Harlequins, and then Chaos, then Harlequins. We should talk a little bit about, the controversy.
Oh, well, there certainly was some controversy this weekend. Before we get into the details, maybe one of you guys can cover the deets on it. I want to just go on record saying that though a decision was made by the TO, that is a tough call to make in the moment when you're looking at people and you want people to enjoy themselves and you want to engage with people and you have to think about honestly future events. So whether or not you agree with the TO's decision at the beginning, then regardless, I want to tell you as a TO, that's a tough call to make. But so regardless of whether you agree with what happened during the event, I do want to say that immediately after the event, again, the TO, top notch on Jason's part. He went out on every appropriate Facebook and other media with a statement where he admitted what happened, was very clear about what the event was, and basically came out in front of his decisions and perhaps what the controversy is. And so from my perspective, I have a high degree of respect for how it was handled, irregardless of any opinions on the actual in-game decision. So with that kind of said on the front, Jeremy, Alex, even Garrett, guys, what really happened?
So I got to say, I understand, and I think that's very nice of you. I think that just overall, I think that for every 50 people, there should be an underling under the main TO to make sure that there's something going on under there, or at best, like a console or an assistant who can like have another ear, have another opinion about the situation. Because the guy was a war, not to name names, the TO is a Warhammer hero. He knows his stuff. He's a good community figure. He's great, but it was a very poor move. Incredibly poor move. I have no idea why he approved it. Maybe he was stressed out. Maybe in the moment he was like, yeah, sure.
Well, what did he approve, Alex?
Well, what he approved, there was a player who played a certain army. We would call them a destruction army in Age of Sigmar.
It was Mark Parker playing orcs. He came out 89th.
Oh, shit, so we're going to name names. All right.
It's all part of the record. Come on. We name
I was trying not to name names, but okay.
There has been public statements about this, Alex.
The libel lawsuit starts now.
Okay. Well, pardon me for covering my bases. So I'm not going to name names, but it's already been stated. Anyways, so he showed up for some reason or another. Forces out of control in his control. We don't know. He did not bring his whole army. He then needed to figure out how to get the appropriate models. Apparently, no one in the convention hall had spare models, had spare minis, had summonable fucking demon units that you could proxy that they weren't planning on really using or whatever. There was no narrative event apparently that had like a bunch of spare models. So he needed to do what he needed to do. And like all of us, good, God-fearing people, he had chosen beer cozies as his proxies for his models, and those are 100% proxies. As like this Vallejo liquid mask is actually 4 Mortec guard right all next to each other.
I don't know. I remember the days of my Coke thirsters where you get a Coke can.
I never played with those, but I did play against the guy once at Great Escape Games in not at Great Escape Games, in Endgame in Oakland, where a guy had fucking monster. Sorry, I'm jumping on there, but he had Monster Energy cans, and he just put them down. He's like, "These are my drop pods." I'm like, "Oh, great, cool." And like even that, like that's fuck shit. But that's like, okay, well, it's like taller than a drop pod. It's kind of similar circumference. Whatever, dude. I really don't give a shit. It's not a tournament, but in a tournament, having beer cozies that are like wider, like as wide as this, that are just like.
I'm sorry, Alex, let me interrupt. I thought the controversy wasn't the fact that he brought, because the thing is like.
Oh no,
he brought Proxy. That like the TO said it was okay, which is a problem, but I don't think that's a controversy.
I'm painting a picture, sir.
Well, your picture is very boring. Let's talk about the actual controversy. Let's
get to the meat about his basing? You know what?
I'm
going to tell you about his basing real quick.
Tell us.
Hey, in order to be properly completed as an army, he needed to have bases on all of his models. Well, for some reason, he didn't have his bases for his flyers either. He just had the flyers. So he based his flyers with crushed up Doritos. Yeah, so that was really fun. But yes, Jeremy, the controversy at hand, despite all of that, is the fact that he gave himself the plus 10 points for having a fully painted army, despite having models that weren't actually models.
So I have a couple of thoughts here. First of all,
just a couple. All right.
A couple. First of all,
you get 2.
Okay, I have a couple too. He never should. Yeah, he shouldn't have given himself battle ready. Clearly, he wasn't battle ready, and if, as it was said, if coming into day 2, he would have brought the actual models to represent them by quickly kit bashing them together, they wouldn't have been battle ready. He never should have been battle ready. Like as many people have said, I don't know if this was an intentional. I don't want to like badmouth this player. It could have just been. Everyone just assumes everyone gets battle ready, like whatever. It was a misstep, and he was correctly penalized for it, which people will say we will go into later. The other thing I wanted to say is, honestly, I'm surprised we're using the battle ready thing at GTs.
Why?
I thought going into 9th edition, there was this huge outcry to using battle ready paint in battle point scoring. We all were just like, why are we using paint scores to score our battle point tournaments? There was a lot of outcry against this, and we're going into the first American tournament that has broke over 100 players, broke over, I think, maybe 80 players, and they're actually still using the battle ready system. And I was surprised
what's
about
wrong
that.
with battle ready? Why are you getting so hung up on this?
Because people were
good. I'm going to cut you over there because like when I run Age of Sigmar tournaments, as everybody knows, I famously do
you famously do this, but there is a huge outcry against using paint scoring as a battle point metric for tournament results of best general. People thought that there is a general consensus that in 40K tournaments, people should keep paint scoring separate from your generalship scoring. But GW has come out and said that, you get 10 points of your paint score added to every game of a generalship score.
Well, that's right. Okay, but the onus is on the TO. The TO can be like, okay, I'm going to have a best general award. I'm going to have a best overall.
That's my point, is that I thought I was under the impression going the 9th edition that major tournaments would just be like, we're not going to use the battle ready because we have a best paint award and we have best generalship award, and those two things are separate.
Battle ready. Or you might consider that in 8th edition, when we used to actually go to tournaments, What it actually was if you weren't battle ready, you pulled those models off the table.
No,
literally,
exactly.
All last
Exactly.
year, you could not put an unpainted model on the table in a GT.
That's
Battle
exactly.
ready was like, no, you can't. If you're not
bare
battle ready,
minimum.
you don't even get to play. So
Exactly.
everyone has to be battle ready.
I guess, yeah, exactly. That's what I was like. I thought we weren't even going to use battle ready as a metric because I thought that like in 8th edition, you couldn't even play without battle ready. And B, people wanted to keep generalship. So the fact that he incorrectly reported battle ready to me is like, okay, like, yes, he shouldn't have, but like, it shouldn't have been a metric in the first. I'm just like, okay, yeah,
It's,
right.
But the idea here is that like I don't really care that you have a paint trophy and also include battle ready, because battle ready for me is just another system incentivizing people to show up with painted armies. How about we just get rid of the painting requirement and you know what?
Oh, that'd be really convenient for you now, wouldn't it?
Well, like as John was saying, we had a system where if you weren't battle ready, those models were removed. Like we already had a system.
It's your
to
responsibility that you don't take a bunch of shit models and put them on the table.
I mean,
you have
also
more than 3 colors of gray on the table.
Can we see if Games Workshop even uses its own fucking rules for scoring? Because
well,
who knows?
They do.
They're not running events. There's nothing happening at Warhammer World right now.
No, they're not. So let's wait until they actually run an event and see what they do.
No, Nottingham is giving an approval on like a case-by-case basis. That's why the...
What am I allowed to bring terrain for 40K now? The new terrain books?
No.
For events?
Okay.
Even
can it
Terrain
be painted?
itself was like that.
Do I get 10
really
battle
be
points
used.
for battle ready if it's painted by me?
So to combat that, Jeremy, GW has routinely actually used this kind of battle ready system in a lot of their turns. For example, the GHB packet actually has, I think, 25 points that are geared towards painting that you add towards every round score. And they have come out and said, this is the packet we use for Warhammer World. And they actually have routinely done that. And so GW, I guarantee, actually will use the battle ready. It was just a matter of whether ITC and other non-GW events would adopt that. And I was surprised that they are. Like, it is, I'm not going to argue whether we should or not. I don't care, honestly. But I'm just surprised that we are. I thought that we, as a community, they would say, fuck it, we're only going to do 90-point games and just not use battle ready. But whatever. I mean, whatever, it is what it is. I don't care. But I was just, the fact that this controversy happened because someone misrepresented battle ready, I was like, I thought we weren't going to use that. Okay.
You know,
on
we
the
can
other
talk
hand,
about this for a really long time. Yeah, John, what's up?
Oh, I was just saying, on the other hand, it will impact RTTs at local stores where people often will bring gray models. So it's still important.
Exactly. That's one of my problems with the battle ready system is I actually like to bring unpainted models to RTTs because I use RTTs as a kind of practice ground where it's like, let me see what works while I paint my GT army because I need to I don't have a lot of time to go to game stores every single day. And this RTT is a great way to get 3 games in one day. And I only have time to paint 1 GT level army. So forcing me to then lose points because of battle ready at RTT is frustrating. So I personally am not in support of the battle ready system, but I like the remove the models at a GT if you don't have battle ready. Personally, I don't know.
I would enjoy that a lot more if I get to do that myself.
I don't like that, but it's just me. Maybe I'm the only one. And you know what? When 25% of the forces are by itself, you know, they actually have to phase out, which is an old 3rd edition Necron rule, where if 25% of the models that had the Necron word in it had existed and nothing else was there, then you automatically lost the game. You automatically, as written, gave all the winning points, full score to your opponent, and you fully lost, absolutely, and that was not fun. But Necron Codex came out, and I'm just going to take this and just talk about it here for a second, you guys. Necron Codex is coming out at my initial projected wedding date, so not saying it's a good thing that I had to push it out because of the pandemic, but it's convenient. Because that would have been a nightmare.
It was meant to be, just like your marriage.
I told my fiance, oh, thank you. I told my fiance, and she was just like, oh yeah, it was going to come out then. Yeah, no, you wouldn't have seen a fucking model then. No, God. And like, she's right. She's good. I'm trash. But like, besides that,
Yeah,
no, it's fine. Like, I get it for sure.
Alex is actually late for the altar because he's rushing down to the local hobby store to try and do some quick buys.
To get a fucking model. I'm talking to Games Workshop support because I haven't got my ebook download yet. Something like that. Games Workshop for the last 2 days has been really, really generous with rules. I mean, they've been generous in general with rules. And, they have a whole article about the Silent King, which we could talk about on a later date. Gives a bunch of stats. And I will say, in terms of overall, with all the Necron stuff that we've gotten, and we're going to get a butt ton of Space Marine stuff, I'm sure, for the rest of the week, in terms of very explicit rules, a lot of detailed information.
And we actually already got like chapter rules and a bunch of stuff off them too. So
true. There's one thing, and I wish I had the image. I will show you guys the image after the recording today, because there's an image of the Space Marine Codex, like a overarching wallpaper style photo in the Codex that's been leaked already, and it shows some of the things that we haven't really gotten a great photo of, like the new land speeders. But there are. The best way, they're Grav Rhinos, but they're not like Grav Rhinos like the Horus Heresy artwork Grav Rhinos. There's a new model that I wanted to address, and I don't have enough info. I don't even know the name of it right now. It hasn't even been released. I just know that, like, I have seen it that I will share with you later.
The Flying Predator?
Full spread. It's a full spread of Imperial Fists, Ultramarines, Blood Angels, and Salamanders, and Black Templar, going up against a bunch of chaos models on the side. And it's that potato photo that we saw with the really, really blurry photo of like the new land speeder. Do you guys remember that? Do you remember we saw like a pseudo, like, oh, this looks like a new land speeder. It's that photo right in front of that land speeder is like essentially a new Grav Rhino. And that is the only model in the entire spread. And there's like 3 of them. There's like 3 or 4 of them in the overall spread.
Alex.
It's like
Alex, it was released in Warhammer Community like a few weeks ago.
No, there's the Predator. There's the Predator that was released.
Yeah,
There's the Predator.
There's the Rhino's been out.
The
Rhino's been out for a while. It's called the Impulsor.
This is not the Impulsor. This is something totally different. It doesn't have a head top. It doesn't have. Okay, let me rephrase it. It looks like a Rhino, but it doesn't look like an Impulsor. It looks like something very. It looks weird. Like I literally mean like the front of it.
You mean the one with the missile pod on the top? That's basically from the Impulsor kit.
I will show you the image later. You can,
show me put it up in your.
I don't want to go through the time to actually pull it up right now. The image is okay. So it's not an Impulsor. It's not a repulsor. It is not a it is not the land speeder. It is not the new Grav Predator. It is something that is right in front of the Grav speeder, but it is it's like bulkier than the Grav speeder, and is not one of the 3 variants of speeder that we've seen, and it is about a third bigger than that speeder. So it's not very large. I thought it was very unique. I will show you. Maybe it's a brand new unit. Maybe I'm full of shit. I think, because I know what each one of the models look like, that it is something that's new, and it's the only thing that looks like it's new because it's to me, it looked like it was based off the chassis of the new Predator model, which is not based off the chassis of the Repulsor model. If you pay attention to the models,
the new Compulsor, I think.
Yeah, let's call it the Compulsor. Yeah, or the
What? I'm sorry. Can we say that again for the audience?
The Compulsor for after hours phone.
Thank you.
But that was really cool, and that's something that I've seen recently. But in terms of other type of leaks, I found it very interesting that a lot of the Necron. Actually, it's this one. Yeah. You know what? Move to the.
Oh, I'm sorry. You want me to move
the other way? The other way.
So if you're only listening, Jeremy
to your what is that? What is that?
In front of the Blood Angel one?
Yeah,
in front of the blood.
Right in front of the land speeder. That is not a repulsor.
Yeah, right off your shoulder.
That's an Impulsor.
It's not an Impulsor. That is not an Impulsor.
The right in front of the Blood Angel speeder.
John,
that's
is that an Impulsor?
Yeah, that's a missile launcher. Yeah.
Yes, that's an Impulsor.
Really, that's an Impulsor?
Jesus Christ, how long have you been at?
Impulsors don't have those little sight things,
we know Alex hasn't paid attention to 40K for the entire.
Y'all get fucked.
It's like that meme, the Necron meme about the guys who's like the Space Marines are back on flying tanks.
Yeah, I guess they're changed to floating now. Cool. Okay, well then, this gives me full permission to just fuck right off and do this. So anyways, God damn it, you guys. That is not a repulsor. I feel like I'm still right, but
No,
whatever.
there's repulsors.
Totally
Repulsor.
not pulling your chain or anything, Alex.
The impulse.
There's two things.
Okay.
There's the impulsor and the repulsor.
The repulsor is the one that looks like a floating land raider. The impulsor is the one that is a floating razorback that's been out for a year and a half now.
Is John looking for the actual model?
They're all out in the garage right now. I was just looking around.
Because you can see a repulsor in the ultramarines. Let's see right here. If you look at my finger, that's a repulsor.
Repulsor, bigger.
That is an impulsor, and then the new one, which is right over here.
That's the new Predator.
It's a new. It's a new Predator basically. That's what it is.
And they look just like each other. Yeah.
It's the same chassis. Yes, it is. It is the same chassis. Much like
you know what?
Rhino, Razorbacks,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
Predators.
So I'm wrong. It doesn't matter.
That's
I
the
suck at
repulsor.
Anyways, Necrons have a lot of cool shit coming out, and we wanted to talk about that for a brief moment, despite the fact that we will probably need a full phase-in episode related.
We should
to both
just
Space Marines
edit
and
this in
Necrons.
post-op.
Yeah, we're gonna have to edit that in post-op. But we're not going to. We're gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it rather. And we don't have to talk about the Silent King. Fuck off him. They're actually kind of like, either the Games Workshop community team doesn't know any of his previous fluff and they were just like saying shit on the fly, or they are, or
Just
like the
retcon
fluff
the
has
shit
changed.
out of
And it really doesn't make me that excited about him, despite him being a badass fucking unit. And
How do you say
rules-wise,
retcon in sign language?
yeah, there you go. Rules-wise, the rumor engine that we've talked about for like 3 or 4 months, that source had to have been correct, because with the exception of one thing, which was that the little sphere things next to the Silent King had Satan powers, not a shooting attack. That was not true. Instead, they have a fucking killer 6 damage shooting attack instead. So that was wrong, but everything else I've seen has been right. So I'm like, okay, I'm down with this. Anyways, dynastic codes have completely changed, and we had talked about it in a previous episode. Dynastic codes, though they have changed completely, some have stayed the same, and we've actually known about the dynastic code changes for about a month now. When Games Workshop did their Twitch stream with the kind of codex preview of both Space Marines and Necrons, they had the book right out there on the exact page as all the dynastic codes were there, and a lot of really good sleuths were able to enhance 90s sci-fi style and get the actual rules for the dynastic codes, but because they had to enhance the image to get the actual text, not a lot of people took it with they took it with a grain of salt. Turns out they were fully right with some of the like how the dynastic codes work, and the new way that the army works out is really interesting to me. One of our friends, which I'll name after recording because I don't want to call him out during the recording, he talked to me earlier today, and he said, I don't like the way that protocols work in this game. Not reanimation, but he's like, I don't like the way that command protocols work for Necrons in 9th edition. The idea of predicting and putting down what you want as your command protocol as the game goes on, which is a significant portion of how things work. He's like, that's very beer and pretzels for me. I fully disagree. Going with the same idea of saying that's the type of person who goes, well, the double turn is fucking beer and pretzels. It's like, no, it's actually more strategic, you fucking chud. No offense to him, who will not be named. He knows who he is. You have to, for the double turn at AOS, you have to prepare for both being double turned and also prepare strategically to take advantage of the double turn. So it's just an added layer of strategy. Same goes for the command protocols. You have 6 protocols that are in the game, and there are only 5 rounds, or 5 rounds for the most part in the missions in the game. You have to choose 5 of those 6 rounds after deployment, but before the game begins, you have to choose 5 of the protocols out of 6. And for each one, you have to choose one of the directives of each of the 5 protocols. And there's the exception of having a special dynasty allows you to enhance or be able to use both directives of said protocol. Kind of a mouthful. That's the best way I could describe it. But that's how the Necron Codex is going to work right now. And it is a little weird. It is
Well,
definitely wonky.
and it's not an unusual mechanic for GW though, because we already know that Dark Eldar have combat drugs, so it's the same idea, but they don't have control of the order. And then if we look over at Age of Sigmar, we also have Ideneth Deepkin and those Marathi and Hurkin, who also have things that progress through the game. So it's a normal mechanic, I would think.
Yes, and not to get into individual war scrolls, because I know we really we don't have time to talk about that today, but I will say the fact that all Satan have Necrodermis and they're all going to be able to only take 3 wounds a phase, which is like a weaker version of Marathi's ability of only taking 3 wounds per game turn, or battle or player turn, is phenomenal. That means that armies like Tau, who fully rely on the shooting phase rather than a psychic phase or a charge phase or whatever, are just like, ah, shit, what do I do? Because I can only do 3 wounds to this fucker. But there's a lot when it comes to the actual codes and the directives and the dynasties, and we really want to kind of cover that today. I want to let you guys know that there are some restrictions that we actually haven't, I may not have shared with all of you, John, Jeremy, and Garrett. I did not share with you, but I've been given information as to the exact restrictions on how these things work, and they are not table wide. I mean, we knew that they weren't table wide from the get-go, but for the directives and the protocols, the entire army, in order to even be eligible for it, your army has to be of the same dynasty. So you can't have 2 dynasties at once. There has to be at least 1 noble keyword on the table, which is going to be like a Necron Lord, Overlord, etc. You have to be within, in order to get the benefit of the directive of the protocol, you need to be within 6 inches of a non-Satan character. You have to choose your command protocols after deployment, but before the first turn. You can note them down secretly on your army roster. This like further enhances Games Workshop being like, hey, buy the cards because we have them on the cards, right? And then you can lay the data cards down in order. Each turn select one of the 2 directives. Okay, so that was the interesting one that I had gotten caught up with. I don't believe this is going to be the case. I assume that you have to choose what your directive is the moment you choose their protocol, or what the protocol for turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 would be. I assume you have to note or annotate what you're going to do for each one. But from the information I had been given, it looks like you can just pull out what your protocol is and then choose the directive in the moment at the start of the turn.
Yeah, that's how I understood it to work, is that you had lined up the directives, I guess, beforehand, or the protocols beforehand, but then when it comes to that particular turn, you have a choice of 1 of 2 effects that you want to act on.
Okay. I mean, that's a huge boon. I always try to err on the side of playing things conservatively if I don't know fully, and without the rules as written, like without the actual text, I'm only given with the information. I can only work with the info I have, so I'm just assuming that.
Right, and then I was basing it on what way, at least what I interpreted when I read the initial Warhammer community page where they talked about.
Interesting. Okay. And then it does say that if the game goes longer than 5 rounds, then you can choose. You can continue the effect. With all of this, outside of talking about specific data slates, there is one thing to say that Zarek, the Silent King, has the ability to automatically change what your command protocols are at the start of the command phase. In any command phase, just once per game, you can be like, you know what, this is the one that I had chosen, but instead, we're going to do this one because I say so. And so that's pretty interesting. But the command protocols themselves, they have quite a bit there. John, were you able to take a look at all of the command protocols, or were you able to see some of them?
No, not really. I'll be honest, I haven't had a chance to dive into the protocols so much quite yet. Okay.
There are some really, really good ones, and there are some not so good ones. I mean, there are some that are good and some of them that are kind of irrelevant. Overall, they are very, very strong, I would say. I
know one thing I am expecting is that we will have like stratagems that would allow us to alter or change them, much like you said that character could. So I wouldn't be surprised if they interact strongly with strategy.
They will. I'm sure they're going to interact strongly with stratagems. there's a lot per dynasty. There's different ones, but for command protocols, there's 6 of them. Like I said, there's Eternal Guardian, which is there's one of 2 directives. If it didn't move, they can fall back and they can gain light cover. Or you can fall back or advance with the directive if you have Eternal Guardian, and you automatically gain light cover after doing so. That's one directive. The second directive for Eternal Guardian is that you can hold steady to or set to defend as if in heavy cover. The second command protocol is Sudden Storm, which you can either be +1 to your movement, or you can do actions and still shoot, which is huge. You know, you could have a 6-man Necron Destroyer unit, infantry keyword, that are raising the banners, and then they get to shoot all 18 shots their Gauss blasters. That's huge. You can do, and so that's one. The protocol of the Vengeful Stars, you can range weapons on a roll of a 6, have 1 extra AP, and if you're within half range with range weapons, you ignore cover. You know, the Hungry Void is the almost identical. 6 is a wound, cause 1 extra AP, and your +1 strength. If you're charged, get charged to perform a heroic intervention. Undying Legions is the 5th of 6 protocols. You know, you gain 2 wounds for living metal for your characters when they in their vehicles. When you regain a wound, you regain 2 wounds instead of 1, and then you reroll 1 dice each time a unit makes a reanimation protocol, which is huge for Undying Legions. So it's one or the other. And then the last thing is the Conquering Tyrant protocol, which is either +3 to auras like Rites of Reanimation, Lord's Will, and My Will Be Done. And then, or you can fall back or shoot with a -1 to hit. Now, in terms of dynasties, that last one is one that's based on the Zarek dynasty, or the Satek dynasty, which is, you know, the kind of Ultramarines of the Necron Codex previously, before the Zarek dynasty came out. But it's funny to note, for fluff reasons, Emotech was never a Pharaon. He's a Pharaon, but like the Pharaon died of the Satek dynasty, so he just took advantage of the fact that the leader was dead and took over. So it's one of those things where it's like, that was always the thing, where they were never really like the Ultramarines of the group. They were just like the pirates almost, and they just kind of like took over. But I think that there's a lot of really cool things here, especially when we dive in the actual dynastic traits of each army, because the dynastic traits prior to in the 8th edition codex, they were simple. They were kind of like one set thing. And as 8th edition codexes came on, your craft world, your chapter, your regiment had several rules associated with it, and not just one flat rule. So seeing dynastic codes that are more than just one set thing, specifically getting the ability to, for each one of these 6 dynasties, you will be able to, when you announce or have a certain protocol in motion for 1 turn, you get to use both of their directives rather than just one. In addition to that, that boon, you actually get 2 separate benefits for your dynastic trait rather than 1, which I certainly appreciate as an army who hasn't gotten too much love in a while. Going back to John again, have you been able to look at some of these dynastic traits? And if so, what really like stands out to you as kind of like maybe one of your favorites, especially since you're starting Necrons now?
Right. So, yeah, as I've mentioned before, I am starting Necrons. I shouldn't say I'm starting Necrons. I got like 3,000 points of painted Necrons, so I'm a serious Necron collector.
You're not starting Necrons. You started an entire Necron army.
Yeah, right. That's how I did it. So with that though, other than initially looking at the Necron book when I first got the army, just because I was excited, and of course playing a game with my new army because I was excited about it, I've actually resisted looking at the army. So I actually know very little about the 8th. Yeah, I've not been reading the 8th edition codex, knowing that a new one was come out. I didn't want to pollute my mind with old rules and then have to immediately learn new rules. So I'm anticipating learning fresh. So I don't know anything about the old dynasties. So I apologize if I'm excited about stuff that's kind of already existed. But for me, it's the Nephrek dynasty is the one that I thought looked really cool. And it's funny, you called the Sautek, I think, the Ultramarines, but it's actually this one that I don't know if they had an Ultramarines feel to them as much, but there were some elements about them that actually reminded me of my Ideneth Deepkin in the ability that when you're advancing and falling back, you kind of phase out and can move through terrain. I see that as a very powerful ability there. And then, of course, an army-wide 6-up invulnerable save combined with reanimation protocols, I think can give you that layer of survivability.
Wait,
that,
Sawtech doesn't have a 6-up invul.
No, the Nifrek.
Oh, you're thinking of Mefrit.
Yeah, that's
No,
what I'm saying.
Mefrit is
I
also not a 6-up invul. You're thinking of two separate ones.
No, right here. Nefrek, translocation beams.
Oh, Nefrit. I thought you were, okay, I think you said
save.
Mefrit.
No, Nefrek.
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 Nefreaky, motherfucker.
Nefreaky.
You can Nefreaky on my fucking cocky right now, motherfucker.
Hey, I'm sorry. Your mic made an N into an M for me. So
no, I was confusing because I referenced Sautech as the one you talked about. Talking about Ultramarines. And for me, this one is not like Ultramarines, though the little bit of the fallback kind of stuff kind of at least it reminds me of them, but it's really more Ideneth-y, because when I play Ideneth, I also take the city, as it were, that allows me to move and ignore terrain. And when I play over on that side, I found that to be an incredibly powerful ability. And so I'm looking forward to maybe giving that a try. So that's for me. Like I said, totally inexperienced at Necrons. Really don't know what they've done in the past. Don't know a lot about the current unit's rules, but it just kind of like looking forward to starting things out. So I think this is where I'm going to start. What about you there, Garrett? Have you thought about any of the cool Necron dynasties, or you're like, it's not orcs, the hell of it?
Well, okay, so part that. My biggest issue is, like you, I don't know much about Necrons in 8th edition since I basically got this massive amounts of propaganda from Alex that Necrons are absolute shit in 8th. There's no reason to ever pay attention to them, and who cares? So I never paid attention to them. I'm kind of new to 40k again because I basically didn't pay attention to anything in 8th edition, and so Necrons are at the bottom of my list to pay attention to coming in since they have a new book. I did take a quick scan of their new dynasties, and I don't know much about the Necron roster, unfortunately. But as an Orc player and a Bloody Rose player, the intriguing one for me was the +1 to charge, +1 to rend on the turn you charge, plus AP armor penetration. I think they have a lot of really solid melee units coming out. If correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, melee is really good in 9th edition. I'm noticing, like with my sisters and orcs, because you can go on, clear people off of an objective, and then and then hold the objective. So if you have higher potential in getting into combat, like through +1 to charge from a 9-inch deep strike, and then the AP helps you in doing that charge and clearing people off, it's kind of this just double down on the effect of going in, clearing people off objectives with like a tough, maybe one of the new destroyer units that have a lot of toughness in addition to their high output, or wraith units with their invulnerable saves. Like, yeah, you may not be OBSEC, but if you can just obliterate what you touch with your new offensive abilities, you can just clear the objectives with a high deep strike charge or a fast movement plus run in charge or something like that. But that +1 to charge is just going to help you get there faster. The extra AP is going to make it so you can clear those tough Marines off of things faster and then score objectives. So to me, that attracted me a lot. I've noticed that the general dynasty rules feel like soft touches, which I like. Like, it's just like an extra AP here, +3 inches of range here or there. Like, it's not a flat, just like your whole army has +1 AP at all times on all their weapons, ignoring cover as well. Like, you'd see from a normal Marine army or something like that. So I like the direction they're going in, where it's just like the turn you charge, you get an extra AP +1 to charge. Or it's like +3 inches to range of your weapons, and at half range, you're at an extra AP. So those sorts, and then the protocols things on top of that to help introduce your synergies of your army. I like that direction they're going in, I guess, is my main things I've been seeing from the dynasty rules.
Seems like some complex synergies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Navoke used to be if you got charged performers of heroic intervention or or get charged, you just reroll all failed hit rolls, which was still good. But with the current meta and how like Scorpic destroyers, almost all close combat Necron units that are not characters have strength 7 with at least AP 3 or better, with at least damage 2 or better for the most part. So having a bunch of high damage, a bunch of high rend close combat attacks, but like capping it at strength 7, being able to make them +1 strength without the plasma sight, which a plasma sight is going to be a staple of both the Obsec or the Abiak destroyers and the Scorpic destroyers, the cute little whizzy drone thing. They can roll a dice and the unit will be +1 strength, which will naturally make them strength 8 in combat. If you add that with Navoke, they can be strength 9, but with the exception of if they roll a 1, they still get it, but one model is just removed from play. And the way with reanimation protocols, how those work, if that model is removed from play, now it won't be able to come back. So that's a bit of a risk, but it's a fun risk. Okay, Jeremy, what about you? Was there a dynasty in particular?
Yes. No, seriously, there is a dynasty in particular. I think all the other dynasties suck. This one is the only one that matters. Nihilak?
Nihilic?
Aggressive. I don't. No, that sounds too close to nihilism. They're not
It's
nihilistic.
Nihilic Oxide. I have the paint right here.
Okay. Well, I don't care what it's called. It's not nihilistic. It's the opposite of nihilism. All right.
We'll go with Nihilak.
Nihilak.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds like it's something from like
I
the
got mine
Pacific
from the
Islands.
recordings.
Oh, I don't care. You've been
Think
wrong
of
too many times
nihilism.
tonight.
They're nihilism.
Tell us about the
dynasty.
Nihilaks there, Jeremy.
So one of the things the first one is basically if you're all your units in your army are OPSEC, and if they're OPSEC, they count as 2 models for purposes of scoring points. So that's a huge rule for 9th edition. Also, key point, it doesn't say core units. It just says units. So everything's OPSEC in that. Like that's destroyers, that's bikes, everything. You know, you wanted a OPSEC bikes I mentioned earlier. There you go. You got Doom Blades, which can be OPSEC. And additionally, on top of that, they ignore -1 Ren when they're fully in their territory, which is also a really cool mechanic because like now I think most of the missions have like kind of like adopted the Age of Sigmar kind of like territory size where it's basically you're just like half the table or quarter of the table and then you're just a certain distance away from your opponent's deployment side. So it's a fairly huge like territory to just be like effectively half the objectives you're going to be -1 to ignore, or you ignore -1 Ren, which is a huge one. I don't know what the protocol does. I'm guessing it's something about scoring.
Which one is it? It
is Eternal Guardian.
Okay, yeah. So for Eternal Guardian, that is that's the one where you either have the ability to. Eternal Guardian is the one where if you didn't move, fall back or advance, you automatically count as being in light cover, and because it counts as both, you can hold steady or set to defend as if you're in heavy cover.
So you get life cover and heavy cover. Man, that's a turn 1 mechanic as I've ever seen it. Just deploy any objectives and just be like, cool, my entire army's +1 save and -1 to be hit and ignore -1 Ren. That's awesome. On top of that, and we're going to talk about it later, but I want to point out like the reason why I love this dynasty more than any other dynasty is that with reanimation protocol, this one really punishes army for not wiping out a Necron unit. Because you're like, cool, I need to kill X amount of Necrons to take this objective. Oh, everything's OPSEC, and everything that is OPSEC counts as 2 models. Like, you literally have to kill the unit. Like, if you don't, like, I see that dynasty to be a lot of Necron warriors or very big blocks of immortals, like just blocks of infantry. Just basically, that's what it does. And just having the ability to be just like OPSEC, hard to remove, is just going to be so huge in that it's going to be the most. It harkens back to the way I felt like Necrons were the most powerful and annoying is when you just could not remove units off the table, and that army not only is hard to remove, but also you literally have to almost kill everything in that unit to get a point. Additionally, I also noticed I don't think they're ignoring -1 Rend is only against shooting. I think it's against everything. So like even melee profile attacks
it is.
is
If you're
works
in the
again.
territory, if you're in their deployment zone, you just ignore -1.
Yeah, it says
I think it's
attack.
just it's only your own deployment zone, Alex.
Yeah.
It's not the enemy. Okay, so,
Yeah,
sorry, I
it's just
misheard
yours.
you.
If you're
Yeah, yeah.
aggressively territorial.
Well,
Yeah,
if it's deployment zones in 9th edition, deployment zones are pretty heavily restricted in general. Minus a couple of missions, like you're not really aggressively attacking the board. Like most of the missions are,
No,
most of the
you're
objectives
just
are
yeah.
most of the
You're
objectives are out in the middle of no man's land. So like having a buff that's only in your deployment zone, it's nice for holding like 1, maybe 2 objectives. But
It's
you're
about half
not
the missions. About half the missions it'll help you out.
okay. Yeah, I guess half the missions.
but it's the idea that like, and it just makes the unit you leave behind that much more durable, right?
Mhm.
It's just in the late game. It also gives you the first game kind of like the old like +1 cover kind of mechanic. Like it's just the first turn. Like it gives you to negate like alpha strike.
A nice alpha strike negation I think is going to be a big thing, especially as we're seeing as we discussed earlier those 8th edition terrains where people are not having a line of sight blocking where you can hide your whole army. It was like, all right, I'm just tough as nails, so who cares?
Do we know if the protocols are revealed at the beginning of the battle round or at the beginning of the
We
command
don't.
phase?
John and I referenced that a little earlier. We weren't sure whether or not it's. John believes that it's in the moment. I was assumed it was. I was just trying to play it safe and be conservative. And I'm hoping for what John says. I hope John's right. But to play it more conservative, I would assume at the start of when you reveal your protocols.
This would be the first army I would think like where going second is like almost no penalty to you.
There's no penalty if that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, if you reveal at the start of the battle round on turn 1, you're like, I choose Eternal Guardian. Everything my army is in cover and -1 to hit and ignoring like random characteristics of 1. Like
You become the best reactionary army in the game.
Yeah. So that's amazing. So that's my dynasty. If I was gonna play a dynasty, I would play that dynasty. So
okay.
Go.
For me, I'm a little across the board. Neferek, because the very first thing I ever saw was OBSEC and count as 2 models. I already was like, boom, that's the one. That's the best one. I still kind of feel that way, that it is, I agree with you, Jeremy, for the most part, that it is, in fact, going to be probably the one that is going to be the best. The Zarakian Dynasty with Uncanny Artificers is not bad. 5-up shrug save against mortal wounds. Each time they, a unit is used to shoot or fight, they can reroll 1 wound roll, so very reminiscent of Salamanders. And when they have the Undying Legions ability, they can use both dynastic codes rather than 1. That's pretty helpful. There's the Mefrit and Evoke, which are just 2 sides of the same coin in terms of better AP and plus or better or rerolling wound rolls of 1 for shooting or close combat. It just depends on each one. The Neferek one of having a 6-up invul save and being able to advance and basically have a fly keyword essentially when you advance or retreat. It's pretty helpful. Nihilic Dynasty with the aggressive territorial, again, I think is my favorite personally.
Nihilok.
Nihilok. Okay, I'm just going from what the Warhammer Community channel said. But if it's Nihilok, hey, I'll go with it. The biggest thing that I found recently is, again, Dayton from Party at the All Points, he does play Necrons. And so he and I have been PMing each other pretty frequently about some things, especially with Necrons. We're not as active in a regular Necron chat that we used to be, but he noticed something here, and I really took heed to it because, since the Indominus box came out, I'm sure that John can attest to this too, having the models for having the new Necron models, you have the choice of taking either the Gauss Reaper or the Gauss Flayer. The Gauss Flayer is just a bolter, traditional bolter, not 30-inch, just 24-inch bolter, rapid fire, 1 rend, 1 damage, doesn't matter. It's okay. It's good. And the Gauss Reaper is 14 inches, 10 inches less, strength 5, -2 rend, 1 damage. So it's essentially a Gauss Blaster, but without the 24 inches, without the rapid fire, or without the 30 inches now. It's changing. That the 30 inches and the rapid fire and the extra 6 points more. No, 5 points more. So Reapers look very sexy, but they have such short range. And with Mephrit, one benefit is you get extra AP if you're within half range, and you get an extra 3 inches to your range. So you become 17-inch range Gauss Reapers, which is either going to be rapid fire within 8 inches or rapid fire within 9 inches. It doesn't really say. I'm sure they're going to say one way or another whether they're going to round up or round down. But if you look at the Sawtech dynasty, and I'm not going to choose them, I still think Nihilique is going to be the best one overall, also in my opinion. But for Relentless Advance, you can reroll morale. You can, and what I meant earlier when I said they were the Ultramarines of Necrons is not to mean that they are rules-wise as accurate, but they are like the poster child of Necrons prior to Zarek's return. So everything was always that Sawtech blue and teal and metallic rather than this like bronze that you're seeing everywhere. So kind of like the new Ultramarines and the new Codex is going to be the Zarekian dynasty. That being said, they can reroll morale tests. They can get double benefits on one of the dynastic codes. But the other one is, instead of following the normal rules for rapid fire weapons, models with this code shooting rapid fire weapons make double the number of attacks if the shooting model's target is within 18 inches. That's interesting because a Sawtech unit of Gauss Reapers with a 14-inch range will only be able to shoot if they're within 14 inches of the enemy unit. But because they're within 18 inches, Sawtech's dynastic code is going to let them be able to shoot twice instead of once at maximum range.
That sounds like the bolter drill stratagem.
It kind of does. I mean, like I bored you guys to death with that, but I'm
excited
really
for
interesting.
you and your
No,
Necrons.
I'm actually thinking also now if you're in actual rapid fire range, now you get 4 shot.
No, wait, do you? I don't think so.
Yeah, because rapid fire has a rule that doubles, and then this has a rule that doubles. This doesn't say instead of the rapid fire rules.
Yeah, unlike bolter drill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was referring, by the way, not to bolter drill rule. I was referring to a stratagem that lets you do the same thing.
So if you have the new monolith, which by the way is going to have as many wounds as a knight, it already has the Titanic keyword in 8th, but it's a heavy support choice. So I'll be fucking shocked if it doesn't become a heavy support, or I mean a super heavy in a new codex, because it's going to have as many wounds. It's going to already have Titanic. Fucking, if it smells like a duck, talks like a duck, walks like a duck, tastes like a duck, it's a goddamn fucking duck. But that's a really good point. So John, theoretically, you could have however many points the new monolith is going to be, which I personally am going to absolutely take for 4 fucking death rays now. It can come out, it can use its Portal of Exile to spit out 40 warriors in a Cryptek. Then you're within 9 inches, but maybe the next turn 1 unit's within 7 inches. It has the ability then to shoot with 2 shots, so it'll be 4 shots each for all 20 guys.
Yep. Yeah, what I picture is you actually come in, you drop it 9 inches away, your opponent does an interceptor, kills a couple guys, few guys come back, you use those to bridge the distance to get yourself a little bit closer.
I mean, also like
look at that galaxy brain John over here.
To Alex's recommendation, you don't really need a monolith to do it. You can just do strategic reserve.
You can or Ghost Arcs. Ghost Arcs are going to be clutch as fuck, I think. But I only say monolith because it's a new model. We know it's gaining wounds. We know it's going to be able to have death.
It's a new model that looks like the old model. With, it's like that model. By the way, I just want to point out, looks like it's grown from like a video game in the early 2000s to a video game in modern day. It's like the generation and graphics.
This is a monolith.
I know.
But that's the new monolith.
There are many like it, but this one is mine.
No, because there was an old monolith, and then they came out with a new kit, right?
Yeah, it looks a lot like this one.
Because that's the one that can open up and have a Satan inside, right?
No, it has a shard. It is, or not a shard of a Satan. Just
You think
like
it's a Tesseract Vault?
Isn't that the same kit?
Absolutely no. It's so much
But
bigger.
Tesseract Vault is a different kit? Oh, I
Yeah,
thought they were the
yeah,
same
yeah.
kit. It's
No,
just how you
they're
assembled it. Oh, okay, got it.
No,
And
it's,
then,
it's so this is a monolith. The Tesseract Vault is like that.
Oh, I guess I've never seen one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? You've never seen it? It's huge.
Somebody
It's a-
clip. Can somebody clip that? By the way, the whole.
It
like,
is
it's like
obnoxiously
that.
huge. John, what makes it even more obnoxiously huge is it's on a fucking flyer base. So it's on like a Storm Ravens base, but it's like bigger than a Baneblade. So you're just looking at it and you're like, how the fuck are you doing that? Like, why? Like, why? Anyways,
The one last thing I was gonna say though.
yeah.
Outside of models, the new shard of the Void Dragon looks stellar. I like
It does
the
look
model.
stellar, but I feel like we should probably be talking about Silent King and the Void Dragon and a lot more, including a bunch of Space Marine stuff, likely in our next episode, because we've been here for quite some time, drooling over Iron Halo and the Necron Codex. So I think that we should probably wrap it up for now. But in the meantime, we do have again the Firehead interview that's coming up. Probably about a day after this recording, so do check it out. John, who are you going to be talking to this week?
Oh, you know what? I will make the announcements on our page. I think that,
okay.
Yeah. I think the first people I'm going to be talking to are Tony Myers, Paul McKelvey. I've lined up Seth Amston, a few other people like that. So.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. And, we have the live stream game, Jeremy and I, on Sunday. We're kind of on the fence right now, 40K AOS. I'm personally leaning towards AOS for Sunday. One more, double day so that we can get into 40K for the next couple of weeks after that. That's what we got going on there. Jeremy, or outside of Jeremy, Garrett, do you have anything coming up besides the RTT?
Nope. Just the stats show with Jeremy on probably the same day, if not the day before. Are we live streaming it, Jeremy?
No, we're gonna record it on Thursday, and then we're gonna publish it on Monday.
Okay, so it'll come out shortly after this episode, the stats show with me and Jeremy, where we will go over some of the wonderful stats that are coming out of the early renditions of 9th edition tournaments now that everyone's going to settle into the new norm.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we have a lot of content that we have to share with you guys. The Firehead episodes, these chili peppers. I have some myself in my fridge that I'm excited to try out. And I don't think they're as hot as the ones that John's doing in the interviews, but they're pretty good. Been enjoying them so far. Thank you so much, John. Then we have the stats show. We have our Sunday stream game. Do be on the lookout for some random streams in between then. I do plan on doing some, Total War campaigns, maybe a couple of Vermintide ones with Garrett's brother Logan pretty soon. But, we do have, if you guys like what you just see, please do review, rate, like us on Spotify podcast, Facebook, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, quite frankly. In addition to that, we do have a Patreon. So if you guys do have any questions related to list advice, especially for, say, Age of Sigmar, for me or Jeremy or otherwise, or, 40K as we get onto this new codex, do feel free to help us get a couple more cups of coffee, and we'll be more than happy to have you as a part of our Discord community, which we do have, where we can talk about lists, talk about other such things, random shit, whatever you want, in addition to possibly having some participation in some additional streams moving forward. So we do hope to hear from you guys soon. And again, this is going to be Alex, John, Garrett, and Jeremy signing off for the evening. Talk to you soon.
Aloha,
Good night.
Nini Laki.